All the way from the start, I can feel it in my heart, like all the way from the start.
Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today I've got a new video where I'm going to give you a walkthrough of the mixing process for a new song that I just put out. It's called Lately. It's out on all digital platforms if you want to check it out. But we're going to take a look. I actually had 3 different sessions that I did this in. Now, this is not typical, but I did the instrumental, the production, the mixing of the instrumental, and then I did the vocals in a different session, both different Logic sessions. And then I actually did a 3rd session for the mastering. I did the mastering in another studio, and I did it in Cubase, of all places. But anyway, today we're just going to look at the mixing of the instrumental and the vocal respectively. So let's go ahead and let's just take a listen to the instrumental. That's really the bulk of the concept of the instrumental. We've got some breakdowns and then obviously the outro. Or the last hook, we'll say. A little bit different. But the main idea for the beat and just kind of the aesthetic and the mixing came from this grand piano. And it is actually from Sound Iron, I think. Yeah, it's this Sound Iron emotional piano. And it started just with this piano without anything on it. Let me just turn all this stuff off. So it started like this. So I had that real basic, but then I put a tape saturator, which this is just in the effects rack within the Sound Iron interface. And I just like the grit that it gave it. And so then we compress it. I've got 2 compressors, this compressor and then a C4 from Waves, getting rid of some of those low mids, that mud. And then the real key to this sound in terms of the mix was this plugin, which is Valhalla Shimmer. This is a very unique reverb plugin. It creates some very big spaces, and then it has some different pitch modulations that happen that create very interesting results. So let me play that back, and then I had some EQ rolling off some low end, some high end, and this is what we get. We're using mixing as a production and sound design technique there. Because again, we start with just a very basic piano line. And then, through mixing as a production stage, we get a whole different tone and something that really set the mood for this track. Now, moving on, the bass lines, these are from Omnisphere. And I think that I just used some Moog style patches. Yeah, so the Moog saws, this is a 3 oscillator preset, and I just stacked 2 on top of each other, and they're compressed really heavily. So if you keep an eye on the gain reduction here, you're going to see just how much is going on. Let's just solo these. So we've got some distortion, saturation there, and it's just a very thick, wide bass sound. I wanted it to be very impactful and something that was up in your face, and so those bass lines definitely did that. I did set up a side chain with the kick drum. I'm not particularly certain on which channel I used it on, probably the piano at certain parts. I have a folder of drums that I've just processed over and over again. over in the years and through sessions. And so I just kind of drop them into battery and they're already mixed. They're from other sessions that I've used. So I know where they're sitting and I don't really have to do a lot with them. So they're just leveled out a little bit. I do have a little bit of a filter and a reverb on this snare here. So that's dry. Just to kind of set it off. Otherwise, there's this low kick that happens in the hooks. And what I did there was a combination of C4 controlling some of the low end. And I retuned this. So if I take all this stuff off, we have this. Right? And then with torque and some of these, we get a much lower subby sort of kick drum. So I wanted this thing to be just super low, have a lot of sub frequencies in it. This had no mastering, or it had nothing on the stereo bus when I exported it, and then I pulled it into the session where I tracked and mixed the vocals, which I'm going to show you now. All right, so we're in session 2 of the same song, Lately. This is the vocal session, or the session that I tracked all the vocals as well as mixed all the vocals. And I know some of you are still going to ask, even though I've answered this a lot on the channel, why would I do things in 2 different sessions? Well, as you can see, there's quite a bit of vocal processing going on. I used a lot of auto-tune for my harmonies and things in this song. And even though I don't have a really crazy vocal chain here, just when you start doing the vocals, my vocals tend to be pretty involved. And so as you saw in the production session, when we have all those instruments going on for the actual, the music and the composition part of it, things just get really cluttered and your computer is going to start to have a lot of trouble if you're trying to do both in the same session. So I typically will tackle the production and then the mixing of the production in one session. And then as we did, we just exported it. I bring it in. If I need to make some mixing changes to the instrumental later, I can go back to, although most of the time I generally stick with my instrumental mix. I just kind of know where I need to have things so that I can do what I need to do with the vocals. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on here. If you haven't heard this song, I'm going to play just a little bit of the verse going into the hook, and then we'll talk more about what's going on in the processing and mixing.
Doubt take me through the fire, woke up in cold sweats. She whispers I equate to nothing, but we all know you're up to something, cause my soul stays heavy like the D-line. Place my worth up above, never anchored to your love or acceptance, even when I get quite reckless. I made it through the darkness, thank heavens. Pour my soul out into every word I share with you. Had to find out that some people never want the truth. Oh no, I stay buried in your love most lately. All the times you had my back when I was fading. The sun is shining, poking through the clouds. If you didn't.
All right, so let's talk about the hook. First of all, as you can see, I used auto-tune. I like to just keep things reined in on the pitch. I tend to be a little bit flat sometimes, especially when I'm trying to reach some of these higher octaves. I have a lower voice, so to get up there, auto-tune helps me do that. So if you want to see what my auto-tune settings are, these are generally what I use on all of my tracks. I don't generally like the T-Pain effect for my voice. I like it to be more natural. So I also turn on the humanize, turn that up a bit. We're in G minor. Make sure and set that key properly, of course. And then I set that input type to low male just to give us a bit of a cleaner result. But as far as the actual vocal chain, pretty simple here, y'all. Didn't do anything real crazy, but we've just got some EQ. I actually recorded this song with this mic. Funny enough, this is a Rode Broadcaster. Yeah, and it is designed for just this, for doing like voiceover and doing on-air stuff. And it's kind of similar to the SM7B in that sense. So this is not really something that you would generally record like musical vocals with, although I just have had it set up here. And a lot of times when I'm just putting together ideas, I'll just leave this up and I'll record with it. And I just like the tone I was getting out of the mic, but it does have some boxiness and some of that mud, just because it's built to cut through. And so I brought some 200, some 500, rolled off the lows there. Then we're going into the Ssl channel, and I'm using that filter to roll off even more lows, a really aggressive boost that's super high up here. It's like 16K or something, but the curve of the Ssl, obviously it dips down, lower into like the 10 to 14 range just to give us that brightness. And I don't think I did any compression or anything dynamically with the Ssl. And then we go into the Pro C. I've got like a 4.5 to 1 ratio, slightly slower attack time, pretty quick release time. We're routing, all these layers to the same bus. So all this is being processed through there, even my harmonies. Now, a lot of people are going to ask, why would you process all this stuff on the same bus? You're just overworking your compressor and doing all that, which I am working the compressor pretty hard, but I want to have a glued and mesh sound. So there's certain cases where, you've seen in my other videos, I separate the background vocals from the main vocals and process them on different buses with different effects to provide that separation. But for this track, and specifically with what I was doing here, I want to have everything blended and kind of meshed in this way where, we don't have as much separation. So that's why I did it this way.
Heavens, pour my soul out into every word I share with you.
Other than that, we got a De-Esser a little bit. I de-ess just slightly going in. And if you're curious about how I track this, I did a video where I showed you the process of using my preamp, which is the Ssl Channel. And I did track with compression and a little bit of de-essing, but just putting the trusty waves on there. And then the rest of it really just comes down to, the way that I stacked it and layered it and blended it. So we've got 3 main layers. I've got some low layers, and these L and R's just signify left and right. So I do a lot of things in stereo pairs to give me width. And then, just balancing and leveling things out, and you get a really big sounding hook. Let me just solo that.
Pour my soul out into every word I share with you. Had to find out that some people never want the truth. Oh no.
Yeah, so that's it. And we got, where's my reverb and delay? So we're running to bus 2, bus 3, and bus 5, which are, the reverb for the hook is about a 2-second concert hall reverb on the vintage Verb. And I EQ'd that, just rolling off lows and highs. And then we've got a quarter note echo from Echo Boy. And this is just something I set up for that. And that's it. Pretty simple chain there. What else do we have going on in this session? Let's go to the bridge. This is a little bit different. I think I routed this to a different bus because I recorded this a different day.
Some won't see a man's downfall, and they won't tell you like it is. Or they sitting on the sidelines, and you out getting your wins.
Yeah, so I used the same chain. I think I made some subtle adjustments here. Yeah, a little bit more compression happening on this. It's very possible that I just slightly adjusted something on my preamp, and so the tone was a little bit different, and so I needed to match that. So I just copied the chain and then made some subtle adjustments. But you can hear that we have this kind of cool flangey echo happening. And so for that, I just set up a delay throw. I just set up a bus or an aux, and right now it's at nothing, but I've automated that to throw the signal down here on bus 10, which is the Echo Boy. We got a quarter note delay, and then I'm running that through a meta flanger, which gives us the cool kind of effect. So let's solo that.
Some won't see a man's downfall, and they won't tell you like it is. Or they sitting on the sidelines, and you out getting your wins.
So that's how I achieved that there. I've got a noise gate on a lot of these channels because I recorded it right here next to my computer. You can hear, various hard drives and things. This is not the quietest space. Again, nothing on the stereo bus after the mix was finished. I just gave myself some headroom to work with, and then I mastered it again in a different studio in another session in Cubase. So if you're interested in seeing more about the mastering session, maybe that's something we can do in the future. Leave a comment and let me know if that's something you're interested in. But again, y'all, all the stuff that's happening here, I talk about all these techniques in depth. So it's just a matter of putting all that into practice. And, the blending and balancing and the way that things are layered is a huge part of what made this record come together or sound the way it does. The mix was, more just serving the purpose of just keeping everything balanced and in check. Nothing too fancy or crazy about it, but I wanted everything to be very upfront, very impactful, and just hit hard and punchy, including the vocals. I wanted the vocals to sit up front. So that's what we went for in the mix here for Lately. So I'm hoping that, showing you all this stuff will spark some ideas for you and just give you some inspiration and just some kind of approaches for how you want to do things in your own sessions. But if you have any questions or comments about what we did here, feel free to leave a comment below. If you learned anything in the video, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing. And we'll talk to you soon.
Even when I get quite reckless, I made it through the darkness, thank heavens. Pour my soul out into every word I share with you. Had to find out that some people never want the truth, oh no. Even when I get quite reckless, I made it through the darkness, thank heavens. Pour my soul out into every word I share with you. Had to find out that some people never want the truth, oh no. I stay buried in your love most lately. All the times you had my back,